off now. Okay, good. Yeah, we're good. All right. Fuck. I was in the zone before. All right. Welcome to the EFIS episode 1. I'm your host, Justin Ledger, here with Zach Hummel. What's up, Zach?
So much, man. How's it going?
Not too bad. We're going to be talking a lot about just the MLB in general this year. Fuck, I didn't like that. Hold on, let me start it over. Fuck. All right. Welcome to the... Oh, fuck. All right. All right, no, we're good. We're good. I got it. Welcome to the EFIS episode 1. I'm your host, Justin Ledger, here with Zach Hummel. What's up, Zach?
What's going on, Justin?
Not too much. The EFIS is going to be an MLB podcast. I'm sure you already assumed that when you saw the title. I think we named it that. That was kind of just a random title, right? We just kind of threw a name out there, and I don't know why we named it the EFIS, but anyways, That's going to be our MLB podcast for the year. I don't know if it's going to be a weekly thing or a bi-weekly thing. We're kind of just throwing it out there now, and whatever happens, happens. We don't want to commit to weekly and then have it not be weekly, so we want to keep expectations real low and then just set the bar. We're recording on Sunday, April, the 17th?
Yeah, I think it's the 17th.
Yeah, so April 17th. This will be online on the 18th. So since we're halfway through the month, we're pretty much just going to talk about everything that's happened in the baseball season this year so far. But we're going to start off just talking about what our expectations are for the entire year, our predictions. We're going to go division by division, just say what we think is going to go down by the time October comes around, give some World Series picks, award predictions, all that good stuff. So we can just jump right into it. We can start with the AL East. We're both from Boston, or we're both Red Sox fans anyway, so we could just start there. And I don't know, what do you think? What do you think is going to go down the AL East?
Yeah, I mean, Baltimore's jumped off to a pretty good 8-3 clip this year, but I really like Toronto to win the division before the year started. They've gone off to a little slow start. Their offense will heat up once it gets hotter. I think they're still the favorite to win the division. Tampa Bay and the Yankees. Tampa Bay, they just don't have the talent. They once had the pitching. The Yankees are a little old for my taste. I think the Red Sox will be in the wild card hunt. Not sure they can, beat Toronto or Baltimore in the division, but I always love watching the AL East. It's one of the most competitive divisions. Offense, not so much pitching, but as a Red Sox fan, hopefully if the starters hold up, maybe, just maybe, they can win the division, but I don't think so.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you on that one. I got the Blue Jays winning the division too. I do think the Red Sox are a much better team than the Orioles are. I would even go as far to say that they have a better pitching staff than the Orioles do. That's saying a lot given all the problems that the Red Sox have pitching wise. But I do think that's the Blue Jays division to win. I think that lineup from top to bottom is stacked. When the Red Sox actually, they're playing the Blue Jays now. They're in a series with the Blue Jays now, and it's almost like, when you look at their lineup, even compared to the Red Sox, who have a really, really good lineup, it's just a top-tier lineup all around. The Yankees, like you said, they're just old. I don't really expect much out of them this year. I actually don't even have them making the playoffs. And that goes for the Rays, too. I don't have them making it either. So I think it's going to be between the Blue Jays and Red Sox, and I agree with what you said. I have the Red Sox taking a wild card spot. But yeah, I agree. It's going to be the Blue Jays. The only problem I'd say the Blue Jays have is if Marcus Stroman goes down at any point, or if he starts not producing, then they're going to have some serious issues pitching too. Because who's their next guy? Who's the next guy up in that rotation? But so I agree with that. I don't know if you have any other input with the AL East or not. We could just move on to the Central.
No, I just think the team that has the best starting rotation, whether that's on paper or on the field, will win that division. Like you said, Baltimore, their pitching has always been their Achilles heel. Toronto kind of turned their pitching around the last couple of years, but Price left obviously, so Stroman's the number one. After him, it's a big drop off. So, yeah, I think whoever pitches the best should win that division, starting pitching wise.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I like what Price has done so far for the Red Sox. I think he's been a little bit inconsistent. I do think, he's never been good in April. So I think once he starts getting in the swing of things and gets more comfortable at Fenway, I think he's going to really start I think he'll even be in the AL Cy Young race when it's all said and done this year.
Yeah.
And I think that is going to make all the difference when you compare the Red Sox to everyone else in the division. They needed that ace like Price to come in. But yeah, so I agree with that. And like I said, if Stroman goes down, things could get really, really interesting at the top of that division. But for now, I think it's the Blue Jays to lose. Yeah, on to the Central. Who did I have winning? Hold on. This is going to be cut out. 1 second. Yeah, because I made these projections like 2 months ago, and I'm still going to go by them. But
it's tough to make projections now, and you've seen like teams play 10 or 12 games, and you're like, all right, that was a bad pick, or this was.
All right. So for the Central, I actually have the Royals winning it, but that doesn't mean that I think they're going to be anything great in the postseason. Well, we'll get to the postseason later, but I do think the Royals are still the team to beat in that division. After that, it's kind of a shit show. I think that AL Central is kind of a shit show all around. I think every team in that division, except the Twins, they've had a dreadful start. But every team in that division could have a chance at being on top when it's all said and done. I like the Indians. I think they have one of the best rotations in the league. The White Sox, I think they're going to be very, very good. I think they'll be in it when it's all said and done. But I do have the Royals at the top. What about you?
Yeah, I think, again, whoever has the best starting pitching, and obviously the AL Central has a plethora of it. You got Sale with the White Sox. Kansas City's got 3 or 4, pretty good starters. Detroit, Verlander's kind of fallen off, but they still have Anibal Sanchez, and they picked up Zimmerman, so that's a big pickup. Cleveland, like you said, their starting rotation might be the best in the major leagues, but their offense can kind of struggle at times. They play in a hitter's ballpark. Minnesota's gone off to a terrible start. They really don't have pitching at all, but I like the Royals to win it. They really have the pedigree. Obviously, they won it last year. Always have a good bullpen, can scrounge up enough runs to actually win close games. And if they can get even decent pitching from their starters, go 6th, 7th inning in games, their bullpen closes it out. My dark horse is I like the White Sox to make at least the wild card. I think they can challenge Kansas City. They have Sale, they have Rondon, they have Latos, who's actually kind of reinvigorated his career with the White Sox. And I love Tim Frazier, who they picked up.
Todd Frazier.
Todd Frazier.
Yeah.
He's a guy that knows how to win. He seems like a really competitive guy, so I think he'll bring that to the clubhouse. So I think they'll be there at the end. I don't know if they'll be able to top the Royals, but should be a fun division to watch.
Yeah, a couple months ago when I made those projections, I thought it was going to be close between all 5 teams throughout the entire year. I actually don't think that anymore. I think it's going to be a dogfight between the White Sox and the Royals at the top of that division. And then after that, it could be kind of a shit show. But last year, the Twins were pretty impressive, and I don't think that's going to be the case this year. I don't think that pitching staff is good enough. I think that lineup could end up being good enough, but I think they have one of the weaker rotations in all the American League. As for the Indians and the Tigers, they'll probably battle for like the third place spot. But they're not. I don't think either one of those teams is good enough this season to win the division. Yeah, so that's pretty much what I think. I don't think, since we're talking about the Royals, I don't think they're going to make a run in the postseason again. It's going to be someone else's year. I just don't see them having, the pitching staff. Like, their bullpen's nasty, don't get me wrong, but I don't think that pitching staff is good enough to lead them to another World Series title. And they did have a lot go their way on the way to the World Series last year. So I don't think that happens again. But who knows? I could end up being an idiot for counting the Royals out because you never know what they're going to do at this point.
Yeah. I actually bet them before the season. Their win total was at, I think it was 86.5. I took the over. I just think they'll, like you said, the division's kind of all in the middle. I think they'll get a lot of wins and close games with that bullpen, but I think Cleveland, Detroit, and the White Sox will all be there for the second wild card. Now that there's two wild card teams, those teams will have something to play for, even if the Royals kind of run away with that division early.
Yeah, so that's pretty much it about the AL Central. We'll go on to the West. This is going to be a quick podcast, by the way, because we're really just kind of winging it this time. We'll have more of a format for the rest of the episodes, but this one's just kind of to lead off. It's probably a little rocky start, but we'll get into the swing of things once we start doing more episodes. But yeah, the AL West. I do have the Astros winning it again. I have them they're off to a pretty bad start this year too. They're 4-8 to start the year, but I think they'll pick it back up. I think they're just way too talented to not be at the top of the division when it's all said and done this season. But yeah, I got the Astros. I think I even have the Mariners making a run for it this year, but I do that. I seem to overrate the Mariners every year, but I think if guys like Robinson Cano can step up in that lineup and really start producing runs, I think that pitching staff's good enough to keep them in games. So I think it's going to be Astros and probably the Rangers at the top of that division. But after them, the Angels and Mariners both can compete for a wild card spot in my mind. But then the A's I think the A's are terrible. So they're going to finish at the bottom again if I had to predict that. I mean, what about you?
I think this division is a whole lot of hot garbage. To be totally honest, the Angels, God, they always just choke. It seems like they have the lineup, they just don't have the pitching. Texas, they got Cole Hamels, so that'll help the rotation. But I'm never sold on Texas. I always feel like they'll choke. Also,
the thing with Texas is that they're going to have Yu Darvish back too, and that 1-2 of Hamels and Darvish could end up propelling them to the postseason. I really think just them two alone could. I mean, their lineup is pretty solid. So I think with that 1-2 to go along with it, a lot of people are sleeping on the Rangers, in other words. I think they could be really good come September and October. Yeah,
I mean, pitching's always been their problem, and if they have two starters like that, two frontline guys, that could definitely help them.
Yeah.
Seattle's definitely good on paper, but like you said, everyone thinks they have high expectations, and then they kind of falter. They end up a 500 team. I watched King Felix versus the Yankees yesterday, and he's lost a lot of velocity. He's throwing 88, 89, so I don't know if he's the frontline guy they used to have. But Houston, bad start. Everyone likes to watch them. They have a lot of good young players, but I don't know I think their pitching's kind of regressed. Other than Keuchel, I think the guys behind him kind of overperformed to their talent last year. So it'll be interesting to see if those guys can maybe turn it around after this slow start.
Yeah, they definitely need the guys behind Keuchel to produce because Keuchel, I mean, he's a great pitcher. He's not going to be what he was last year. He's going to regress a little bit. Last year, he was so good. He was the main reason they were even in the playoffs. Obviously, AL Cy Young that year. But you're right. I think what they really need is the guys. They need those guys in the lineup like Correa, Springer, like all of those guys. They need to produce to the best of their ability. I actually have Correa. We'll talk about this later, but I have Correa being in the MVP race this season. And I think if he has the kind of season he's capable of, that's really all they're going to need. He could be that guy to bring them there this year. But then they really do need, like you said, that pitching to step up. They need their bullpen to step up. Keuchel had a great game last night, but I don't know if that's going to be enough, just Keuchel in that rotation.
Yeah. Colin McHugh was great last year, and he's kind of off to a rocky start, so we'll see.
Right. All right, so we could head over to the National League. So we'll start with the NL East. The Mets, kind of an iffy start. They had I think they had definitely the best rotation on paper coming into the season, and it hasn't really been that great. They've had injury concerns with DeGrom, Harvey. I mean, after that whole bladder thing, that was kind of weird. But after that whole bladder incident, he hasn't been that great. He didn't have a good start last night against who they play last night? Phillies?
Cleveland.
Oh, it was Cleveland. Yeah, you're right. It was Cleveland.
He's becoming sort of a drama queen. He's becoming almost like a LeBron figure where he's worried about his public image more than kind of what he does on the field.
Right. Yeah. So I mean, Syndergaard's still Syndergaard. He's the ace of that staff right now.
He's their ace right now, for sure.
Right. And Steven Matz is he hasn't performed up to expectations. So it's kind of a shit show over in New York right now. But meanwhile, the Nationals, who I didn't think were going to be anything special this year outside of Bryce Harper, they're killing it this year. They're 9-1 to start off the season. Now, do I think they're going to keep that spot at number one all year? No. I do think the Mets are going to overtake them at some point. I mean, put it this way: the Phillies are 5-7 right now, and in second place. I mean, the Phillies suck. They're terrible. They're going to be it's going to be Phillies and Braves at the bottom. I think actually the NL East is probably the easiest division to predict because it's just the Mets and the Nationals at the top, and you got the Marlins in the middle, and then the Braves and Phillies being shitty at the end. But I mean, can we talk about Bryce Harper this season so far?
Yeah, he's killing it.
Killing it. Grand slam for his 100th career home run. I mean, I think everyone expected that, obviously, after he won the NL MVP last year. Me and one of my buddies, actually, we have a bet going on of who's going to have – we've had a bet since the beginning of Bryce Harper's career. Who is going to have the better career by the time they retire, Trout or Harper? I took Trout. He took Harper. And right now, it's 3-1 Trout. I mean, Harper had the better year last year, but Trout had the better years three before that.
Trout's gone off to a bad start this year, too.
Very bad start this year. So that bet could get pretty interesting because Harper doesn't show any – I mean, unless he gets injured, which, I mean, obviously he has an injury history. But unless he gets injured, I'm kind of worried for that bet. I think Harper is going to be the best player in the game for years to come. And he's kind of proving that so far this year, coming out hot out the gate, like already after winning NL MVP last year. But that being said, I don't think the Nationals are going to be the division winner this year. I think it's still going to go to the Mets. I think that rotation is going to figure itself out. No, that lineup isn't fantastic, but you saw what happened last year. As soon as they got Cespedes in that lineup, I still think they're going to produce enough runs to be in it come October.
Yeah, I actually love the Nationals. I think they're going to run away with this division. Not saying that they'll do good in the playoffs because they've definitely struggled in the playoffs the past couple of years. And Bryce Harper's really took a leadership role in that team. I think he's sick of losing. This division might have two of the worst teams in the MLB. Philly, 5-7. They're second place, but they'll end up at the cellar. Atlanta's rebuilding, terrible. Miami, I was kind of high on Miami. They have a lot of good young players. They have Fernandez. They have Stanton, Yelich.
Yeah, Miami's one of those teams who should just be so much better than they are. I can't wrap my head around the Marlins at all. Because like you said, they have so much young talent. Their pitching is iffy outside of Fernandez, but still they got that ace, you know? So it's just weird to see them be so mediocre, or probably less than mediocre. But that's just strange to me. The amount of talent they have doesn't measure up to how their record, you know?
Yeah. I think Miami, give them 2 or 3 years and they'll be back there, but not right now. Definitely not right now. It's definitely Washington's to win. I like the Mets in the wild card though. Like that with that rotation, if they hold up all year, they should probably win the first wild card if they don't win the division.
What's up, Trevor?
Yeah, he fucking came in.
Better late than never, huh? Yeah. What's up?
What's up, dude? Where are you right now?
I'm at a bar.
Oh, okay. It's a little noisy.
Yeah, I'm trying to block that out a bit. But Just figured I'd pop in before you guys popped on out.
Yeah, we're gonna be done probably in like 5-10 minutes.
Where are you guys at in the proceedings?
We're talking about the NL East right now.
Oh,
Yeah.
so Braves stink. Phillies have been good somehow. Marlins are even worse than the Braves, even though they have a better record, and the Nationals are beating the shit out of all the bad teams.
That's pretty much it, yeah.
All right, back up to speed on that one at least.
I'm gonna be honest, I don't think we can handle the noise.
Then consider that my contribution, and I will sign off then.
It's alright, don't worry about it. Oh, fuck.
What the hell was that?
Like, did you expect that to work?
Yeah.
That was so loud. You were in the middle of talking, and it just got, like, so loud.
Yeah, I was wondering what that was because I wasn't looking at the screen.
Right,
I looked over. I saw Trevor's face there. I hear like a fiddle in the background. I'm like, what the fuck?
Yeah, I can't deal with that. Do you want to just do the NL East over?
Sure, yeah.
I mean, might as well, because that just threw me off wicked bad.
Yeah.
All right, so on to the NL East. The Nationals, they're off to a great start. They're 9-1 so far this season. I mean, I don't really take that into account too much just because, I mean, April can be so deceiving. But at the same time, they're looking really good. Bryce Harper's looking very good. Coming off his NL MVP season, I think everyone expected that. But I actually don't have them winning the division this year. I think it's going to be the Mets, even though that rotation has looked pretty iffy. Outside of Syndergaard, who's been everything they've hoped he would be and more.
Yeah, he's been unreal.
Yeah, but Harvey's been underwhelming. I mean, DeGrom's had injuries, so it's very hard to see where he's at right now. And plus, he just had that issue with his baby, too, which I actually don't know what the status is with that right now. But, I mean, hopefully everything's okay there.
Yeah, prayers out to the DeGrom family.
Yeah, absolutely. But I don't know. He's also hurt right now. I don't know if it's anything serious, but that's why he hasn't been in the picture. But anyways, so I think the Mets are still going to come out on top of the NL East, even though they've started off 4-6, but like no one cares. It's only been 10 games out of 162. The Nationals at this point, though, have impressed me to the point where I think it's going to be very, very close at the end of the year. I'll still take the Mets, though, and I think the rest of the NL East is extremely easy to kind of predict. It's the Marlins in the middle, and then Phillies and the Braves at the end. We were just talking, actually, because we had to redo this because a lot of noise happened, but we were just talking before about how the Marlins, their talent level is way better. Like, they got Stan, they got Fernandez, they got even guys like Christian Yelich are talented. That everyone thinks that like guys like Christian Yelich or other guys in that lineup are going to be unreal, and they always underperform. But the point is that talent on that team is so much better than what their record is every year, and they're a huge enigma. That's a good word for the Marlins, enigma, because they're just so. I think it was actually last season. I had them possibly winning that division or coming in second place in that division at least. Like I had them as one of my top sleepers, and they're just not very good. But like I said, I think if they're the third place team in that division, and then they'll follow with Braves and Phillies, they'll battle for not last place, I guess.
Yeah, I like the Nationals to win the division. I know they've gotten off to a good start, and that could be, maybe false because it's April, but I think they'll keep that up. The Mets should challenge for a wild card spot just with their rotation alone. I worry about their offense, though. I think they need to pick up a big bat again at the trade deadline. Phillies, Miami, Atlanta. I think what will decide the division is how Washington and the Mets play against those teams, because you can really rack up wins when you start playing Atlanta and the Phillies and Miami 16 times a year. So whoever has a better record versus those teams, I think, will win the division. Miami, their organization is just kind of a mess. Every 10 to 11 years, though, they have this great rush of talent, young talent, and they'll go and win the World Series. And I think maybe they're 2 or 3 years out, but I would look for that to happen because they do have another great rush of young talent again.
Yeah, they just need that pitching outside of Fernandez. I mean, that Fernandez should be their guy for years to come. I mean, I know there were reports this offseason that Fernandez isn't happy there, but if he does end up in Miami for a while, he should be their guy, and they need guys. They need other guys to go around Fernandez in that rotation.
Yeah, I agree with that. They really have no one else.
But yeah, so I'm taking the Mets. You're taking the Nationals there. We'll go on to the Central now, where I'm assuming we both have the same pick there, the Cubs.
Yep.
I mean, they've started off hot. They're the heavy favorites this year to win it all, which is crazy because we're talking about the Chicago Cubs here. But they're the favorites, and I'm sticking to it. I think they're going to win the Central pretty easily, actually, and that's saying a lot considering how successful teams like the Cardinals and the Pirates have been lately. But yeah, so I'm taking the Cubs. Who else do you got in that division? Who else do you think is going to be at least in
I thought Cincinnati was going to be in the cellar, but they've performed, above average so far. St. Louis, I worry about their pitching. Wainwright had another terrible outing yesterday.
Yeah.
They can always hit, but I think their pitching has regressed. Pittsburgh should be there. I like Pittsburgh to win a wild card spot again, but again, they always keep losing the wild card game, so it's kind of become commonplace for them to do that. In Milwaukee, they'll be in the cellar along with Atlanta and Philadelphia in the National League. So I do like the Cubs to win it. And, I know this big Schwarber injury occurred. It'll kind of be interesting to see how the Cubs kind of fill his spot.
Yeah, I don't think that'll be a problem. I mean, obviously it hurts them. Like, it's certainly not a good thing that he's gone. It really sucks, actually. But at the same time, they're so talented all around that I think it's not going to hurt them to the point. I think they still win 95-plus games this year, put it that way.
Yeah, their pitching's that good.
Yeah, and I think the interesting thing about the Central, I mean, this is the same thing as last year, but the Cubs, Cardinals, and Pirates it's very likely they're all going to have 90-plus wins this year. And I think it's going to be the Cubs at the top, but then when it goes Pirates and Cardinals, I really don't know who's going to take the second-place spot there. I know the Reds started off decent, but I don't think that lasts. I mean, obviously the Reds are only 11 games in. They're 6-5 right now. I think they're going to start being on the tail end of that division along with the Brewers. I mean, the Brewers aren't even worth mentioning, in my opinion. They're just they might be the worst team in baseball.
Yep.
I think the Brewers and Reds are truly two of the worst teams in baseball, and they're not even going to be remotely in contention when it's all said and done. But yeah, those three teams at the top, very interesting. You were talking about Schwarber. For those who have been living under a rock, he tore his ACL and his LCL. He'll be out, I think they said 6 months probably.
Yeah, 6 months.
Which is actually, I mean, I expected him to be like no chance of coming back in the postseason. That's actually pretty good news.
Yeah.
So the Cubs are going to make the postseason this year. If they don't, I'd be absolutely shocked. So if Schwarber can come back for that, that'd be awesome. But like I said, I don't think that matters. I do think that should start a conversation about having the DH. I mean, the conversation has already been around, obviously, but a serious conversation about bringing the DH to the NL. I've been team DH all along. I don't think anyone wants to see pitchers step up to the plate unless their name's Madison Bumgarner. That's just the way I look at it. I don't know if you have any strong opinions on it.
Yeah, I agree. I just think it's crazy how the National League and the American League have different set of rules. Think if the AFC and the NFC and the NFL had different rules. Like, I just think that's crazy. It's so this is the problem with baseball. It's so old guard that they're not, they don't want to change their rules, but the NL needs a DH. It would make the game so much better. It would actually challenge these NL pitchers. They wouldn't be able to pitch around, the 8th and 9th guy in the order knowing the pitcher's coming up. It would actually have to challenge a full lineup like every American League pitcher does. So I think they need to do it.
Yeah, and I think it's going to happen sooner rather than later too, because I think most people are on board with what we're saying. I just think it's, like you said, it's the old school mentality of, we don't want to change. It's more of just stubbornness of the higher ups, like the old people who just don't want anything changed. But I do think we're on the right track. I mean, obviously, MLB is coming in with like a lot of new rules. Obviously, replay was introduced somewhat recently, so I think they're starting to get to the point where they're willing to change a lot. And I think DH is the next big thing that needs to happen. That needs to go to the NL because it's getting to the point where I can't even when a pitcher steps up to the plate, I just throw my hands there. I'm like, why is this happening? The only pitcher I like to see Bumgarner hit bombs off Kershaw. That's like the only thing I like when it comes to pitchers stepping up to the plate.
If pitchers were better hitters, I wouldn't mind watching it. I'd be like, all right, maybe this guy. But they're all like easy out 100 hitters at the most. So
yeah,
it's like
painful.
It's worthless.
Yeah, when you see like John Lester step up to the plate, it's like it's funny. It's not even worth watching. I don't know.
Joke, yeah.
But yeah, and I think Schwarber would be. It sucks for him that he's forced to play. I mean, obviously, like some people would be like, "Who cares? Get better. Be a better fielder. Like that's on you." But he'd be an unreal DH, and I want to see Schwarber DH. I don't want to see Schwarber out in left field like being like terrible. That's not what I want to look at. When I'm as a fan, I want to watch Schwarber hit bombs. That's what I want to see. And as a DH, that gives him the best opportunity to do that.
Why can't Major League Baseball players have specialties? You know, you have a lefty specialist in the bullpen. Why can't you have a hitting specialist as a DH? I just don't get it.
Yeah, like in the NL obviously needs that. I think if you're not on board with having a DH in the NL at this point, you're pretty delusional, to be honest. I just think that's the way baseball's headed, and rightfully so. So yeah, that's Central. We can move on to the West now. This is interesting. The West is very interesting this year. I'm still gonna go with the Dodgers, but I think the Giants. I mean, look out for the Giants. It's an even year. I think everyone who's ever covered baseball in their life has said that this season. It's an even year. Watch out for the Giants. But I mean, this really could be the Giants' year again. I think they have the talent. Whether they have more talent than the Dodgers is kind of iffy, but I mean, it's going to be a battle between those two in my mind when it's all said and done this season. But then you have the Diamondbacks. They've gotten off to a terrible start, but they did a lot to at least attempt to improve their team this season. Obviously bringing in Zach Greinke and Shelby Miller. But unfortunately for them, one of their best players, A.J. Pollock, their center fielder, was hurt this season. So that offense took a hit. But obviously they still have Goldschmidt, so they do have that run producer in the lineup. But there was a lot of hype about the Diamondbacks this year. I'm not buying into it. I think it's a lot like the hype that was following the Padres when they made all of their acquisitions. So, I mean, I'll give the Diamondbacks third place in that division. I mean, all three of those teams after the Giants and Dodgers aren't very good at all. But so, I'll give the Diamondbacks third place. Then, obviously, Rockies and Padres are both but I'll give them fourth and fifth. It's like
whoa!
What?
The Rockies?
Rockies' offense is fantastic, but their pitching's so shitty. And it's the same story with the Rockies every year. I mean, I love that lineup more than I love most lineups in the MLB, but it's that their pitching. They need just one guy. Give me one guy in that staff who you can count on every fifth day. You know, the Rockies could be the third place team this year, but they're not going to win that division. They have no shot. They need pitching. That's the whole point.
Yeah, it's pretty obvious that Arizona and San Diego tried to follow with the Dodgers and San Francisco by getting pitching, and it's totally backfired on them. Like you said, Arizona got those two big pitchers, and they've gotten off to a terrible start. But, Colorado's actually building towards something. They're bringing up young players. They have a lot of good young pitchers in their system, and, I mean, they have Trevor Story, who's tough. He's killing it right now. He's tough to get out. He leads the MLB in home runs. Check out the Ledge Twitter. Anytime he hits a home run, I'll post it.
Yeah, Zach's the official Trevor Story writer of the Ledge. So if you need any Trevor Story information, be sure to look him up.
Yeah, hit me up. But he does strike out a lot, which I've noticed lately. So I might quickly get off that bandwagon if he doesn't start hitting more home runs.
Yeah.
But anyways, like you said, the pitchers at the top, Dodgers and San Francisco, they actually might be the two best teams in the NL. I know the Cubs, I know the Nationals, but the Dodgers and San Francisco can go in a 7-game series and throw 3 legit starters at you. And that's tough to beat. I like San Francisco's offense a little more than the Dodgers. They're kind of inconsistent, but they both should be there at the end. And those bottom 3 teams, just toss them in a hat. They're all kind of They should all be under 500 by the end of the year.
Yeah, I think they definitely will be. And I wouldn't go as far to say that the Giants and Dodgers are more talented than teams like the Cubs, Nationals, maybe the Mets. I mean, I think you could put probably the Mets, Dodgers, Giants all in kind of the same tier. But, I mean, the Giants and Dodgers are both going to be in the postseason this year, in my mind anyway. I think one of those teams is a wild card team. But then, like you said, everyone outside of them in the division is not really worth talking about. The Rockies, I mean, I shouldn't say that because the Rockies are worth talking about. That lineup is very exciting to watch. And I've said multiple times already this season that that's one of my favorite teams to tune in and watch. But until they get a pitcher, like I said before, it's kind of just disappointing. It's one of those teams that I get so hyped up watching them, and then I'm like, oh yeah, they suck. Like, kind of forgot about that whole part.
Yeah,
like,
but at least they're building towards something. Like
exactly.
Arizona and San Diego, they've just thrown money at big free agents, and it hasn't worked out for them. So they're kind of rebuilding. But Colorado at least has good young players.
Yeah, I think Colorado knows what they're doing in that sense. Like, in the future, and like you said about the Marlins, in 2 or 3 years, I really think that Rockies could be in the conversation for that division, but it's just not their time yet. So that wraps up the divisions. I think we pretty much have like the same picks that I guess most people would have. I mean, we picked like Cardinals, Giants, Dodgers, like, obviously you picked Nationals, I picked Mets, but I think that's sort of the consensus, just all of those teams. We didn't really have many sleepers. I mean, we picked Royals, Blue Jays, and who is our AL West? Astros.
Yeah, you like the Astros. I actually like Texas still.
Oh, yeah, you like Texas. Yeah, and like we didn't have any sleepers really winning. I think all the teams, like I said, we mentioned are kind of the experts, you would say, sort of picked all those teams to be in contention. But so yeah, that wraps that up. We can move on to our World Series picks, I suppose. I got the Astros against Cubs in the World Series. I think that would be a hell of a series.
Yeah,
what about you?
That would be. I have Kansas City from the AL. Yeah. I just like their pitching in bullpen. I think it's MLB is almost becoming like football, where it's like the same teams every year at the top, and that's not really a good thing. You can chalk in, like we said, we all had similar picks for the NL and AL. From the NL, I'm between the Cubs and the Nationals. I'll go with the Cubs. I like their pitching a little bit more than the Nationals, and I like their makeup a little bit more. Wrigley, once it gets to October, will be crazy. I think that will, help them in the playoffs. So Cubs, Royals, World Series, little Midwest World Series, and I like the Royals to win it. Royals repeat.
You like the Royals repeating? Shit.
Yep.
Okay. All right. So like I said, I have Astros, Cubs. That one was really tough for me just because, I want to believe it's the Cubs' year, but they're the Cubs. Like, you just don't know. I can't trust the Cubs. Can anyone actually?
They should win it. They should win it.
Yeah. So I do have them winning. Like, I don't feel good about it. They're the heavy favorites, and I still don't feel good about it. I have them beating the Astros in the World Series. The reason I have the Astros in it, I keep thinking about how they should have beaten the Royals in that series last year, or what. Was it a wild card game or was it a series? I don't even remember.
Series, yeah.
Yeah, it was a series, ALDS.
Houston should have won.
Yeah, they should have won that series, and I think if they did beat the Royals in that series, then they could have gone all the way easily. And I think they haven't gotten off to the start they should have gotten off to, but they should be I expect them to be at the top of the division, but they should be one of the better teams in baseball by the end of the year. And if they go into October hot, I think they're going to be the team to beat. But are they better than the Cubs? No, and that's why I just keep thinking the Cubs would beat them in that series. And then obviously there's that chance that both of us are wrong and none of those teams make it and we look like idiots. But
it's highly possible.
It's highly possible, especially in baseball. So, I mean, we'll see what happens, but that's that. And then we can move on to awards if you want. We could start with
sure.
We could start with MVPs. My AL MVP, speaking of Astros, is Carlos Correa, 22-year-old shortstop for the Astros. I think in two or 3 years, I don't want to say we're going to forget about Trout, but I think Correa is going to be in the conversation as the best player in the American League, and I think people are going to start getting off the Trout bandwagon and start hopping onto Correa's. So I think this is the year that Correa truly starts, producing and making people forget about Trout, I guess. And NL MVP, I have Bryce Harper again, repeating. That's kind of a no-brainer. I guess you could throw Paul Goldschmidt in there as a potential NL MVP winner, but I think Harper runs away with that pretty easily.
Yeah, in the AL, I like Donaldson again. I just think he's everything for Toronto. A lot of those guys in there hit 250 and hit a lot of home runs, but Donaldson's their average guy. He'll hit 340 home runs, 140 RBIs. I've been watching him lately. He's just such a professional hitter. He'll go opposite field. He'll take you deep to center. He'll pull the ball when he needs to. I just think he's a great hitter, and he plays actually above average third base, which a lot of people don't realize. In the NL, like you said, Bryce Harper should win it. If he doesn't, maybe he gets injured or something. I like actually Anthony Rizzo from the Cubs. If the Cubs have another great year, I think he could win it. His numbers aren't really that impressive, but what he does for them intangibly, I think, is really important. But Harper should win it if he doesn't get injured.
Yeah, I agree with that. Rizzo's another guy. I should have mentioned him along with Goldschmidt, who could be in contention there. For NL MVP guys, I feel like it's always going to be the same guys sort of in the conversation. But Harper, Goldschmidt, Arenado stepped up last year, so he could even be in it again this year.
Yeah.
He's gotten off to a good start too. But I got Harper. I think he's far and away the best hitter in that league. So we'll move on to Cy Young. AL Cy Young, I got Chris Sale, who's gotten off to a tremendous start this season. And then at NL Cy Young, I have Max Scherzer from the Nationals. But most people, I think, are going to be picking Kershaw. I don't know who you have there.
Yeah, AL, I also like Sale. I think he's disgusting. He's actually one pitcher I would actually pay to go see, which there's not many of them in the MLB anymore.
Yeah.
He reminds me of Randy Johnson, the way he can throw and the movement on his slider. And if the White Sox want to go anywhere, he's going to lead them. National League, I actually like Arrieta on the Cubs. He's off to another good start. And if they're at the top, I think he'll be a big reason why. He'll have great numbers again. So I like Arrieta. Kershaw should be in it again. And Scherzer's kind of, I don't know, he's kind of dropped off the table a little bit to me. I think Arrieta should be the favorite in the NL.
Yeah, the reason I take Scherzer over Arrieta is I think, like you said about Arrieta, I think that's kind of the same thing for Scherzer, is that if the Nationals do end up being as good as they could be this year, obviously Harper's the main reason why, but you need pitching too, and I think Scherzer's that guy who's going to get them, he's going to get them wins. He never really has a high ERA either. He strikes a ton of guys out. I just think you can't count Scherzer out of the Cy Young race at any point. So then Rookie of the Year. This one, I feel like there aren't that many. I know you might say Trevor Story for NL, but I don't think he's. Is that
Wrap it up.
Is that
Sign the papers? It's Trevor Story. If he keeps up even half of what he's doing, it's Trevor Story for the NL.
Yeah, I'm not going to go Story. I think he's going to cool down big time this year. But yeah, AL, my pick 2 months ago was Byron Buxton. He hasn't really done much this year, but I think that's going to be a name in September that we're going to be hearing a lot. And I got to stick to my guns too. I can't change my picks. I got to stick to it. So I'll go Byron Buxton of the Twins. And then NL Rookie of the Year, I'll take what pretty much is the consensus pick. I'm going to go with Corey Seager, shortstop for the Dodgers. He's looked great so far. So that'll be my guy. I'm not going to take Story. I'm not going to get hyped up over April. I can't. I've done that in the past where I get so hyped up over guys in April and then they just end up disappointing me. So I can't go with Story. But that's definitely your guy.
Yeah, NL, I have to go with Story. I've already jumped on the bandwagon. Like you said, you have to stick to your picks. In the AL, I think it's a little more muddled. Who did you have for your AL?
My AL is Byron Buxton, and I don't feel good about it at all. But there's not that many guys that jump out to me as candidates. So,
yeah, I think one guy that you should keep your eye on for AL Rookie of the Year is Joey Rickard from the Orioles.
Yeah, he's looked good.
Yeah, he's played outfield. He's hitting 300. He's not much power, but, like you said, it's kind of a weaker rookie class in the AL. So I look for Joey Rickard to be there at the end. With that Orioles lineup, he'll get a lot of protection as well.
That is true. Yeah, anything can really happen there. Like I said, I don't feel very good about that pick, but got to pick someone. So I'll go with the guy who's been hyped up for about 3 years now, and he finally has a chance. So we'll see what happens there. And then on to, this one's, I don't even like this award. It's pretty much like whatever team's the most successful, like the manager gets this award, but manager of the year. AL, I just took the two teams that make it to the World Series, in my opinion, the Astros and the Cubs. So I took AJ Hinch, manager of the Astros and for the AL, and then Joe Madden, obviously manager of the Cubs for the NL.
Yeah, in the AL, I actually like Robin Ventura from the White Sox.
Okay.
If they end up making the playoffs, I think he's had to deal with a lot this season. The LaRoche thing was a lot bigger than people. It was talked about a lot, but he actually had to handle that internally because all the players were on LaRoche's side. So the fact that they've gotten off to such a good start, I know it's only April, but if he continues that, I think he should win it. In the NL, I actually like Dusty Baker with the Nationals because they've always had the talent. Matt Williams, he kind of underachieved, and a lot of people criticize his decisions, but Baker has really turned Washington around. I think Baker is going to win it if they end up, where they should be at the top.
Yeah, I actually like that pick. And Dusty Baker sort of gets a bad rep. But I think, especially so far, he's shown that, that team's still going to win. They're off to a 9-1 start. And I think, obviously, they're not going to keep a 9-1 pace all year, but they're going to be near, if not at the top of the division, they're going to be competing for that division. And if they do take that division, I agree with you. I think Dusty Baker is going to get recognition for that, especially since he's been out of managing for a little while and then just got put right back into it.
He gets a bad rap because he was with the Cubs when they had the Bartman thing, and he was with Cincinnati, and they kind of underachieved when they were in their prime. So, but I think he's done well at the Nationals so far.
Yeah, so if he keeps that up, I definitely see where you're coming from there. And then we'll wrap it up with comeback player of the year. My AL pick, and like I said, I made these picks a couple months ago. My AL, I'm sticking with it for sure, is Yu Darvish. I think when he comes back, he's going to be good as new, and he's going to lead that Rangers team potentially to a division title, but I think they're going to be a playoff team, and I think his comeback is going to be a major, major reason why in that rotation behind Cole Hamels.
Yeah, I like Darvish too. Like you said, he had that injury, so I think Darvish, with him and Hamels, that may be the best 1-2 punch in the AL. So that'll be tough to beat once it comes into the playoff time.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the NL, it's not looking good so far, but I had Adam Wainwright. Obviously, he ruptured his Achilles tendon last year, so I figured as the ace of one of the best teams in baseball, he would bounce back big. It hasn't. He's had a rough start this season, to say the least, but there's plenty of time for him to come back, so that's still going to be my pick for the NL.
Yeah, for the NL, I actually like Fernandez from the Marlins. He had that injury last season. I think if he comes back, semi-strong, even though the team isn't that good, I think he should win it, comeback player of the year.
Yeah, I like that pick too. I guess the reason I went with Wainwright is his injury was so much more. A ruptured Achilles tendon is. I think he started one game at the end of last year, and he looked really, really good. And I think, was it September that he came back? I don't know if he had one start or two starts, but I know he came back at the very end of the year and he looked great. So that was kind of why I jumped back on the Wainwright bandwagon a couple months ago. So I'll stick with that. I think if the Cardinals are up there at the end of the year, I think Wainwright is going to end up being a reason why. So I'll stick to my guns. So yeah, that's pretty much all we had to talk about for this episode. Just a pretty generic podcast predicting what we're going to have for the rest of the season. So yeah, tune in to episode 2. Hopefully we have that next week. If not, we'll definitely keep you up to date on when we plan to do it, but that's the plan, is to have these weekly. So yeah, thank you for listening to episode 1 of the EFS. Zach, you got anything else to say?
No, just thanks for listening. We're gonna have a couple more people from the site on the podcast the next couple weeks,
right.
So look out for that.
Yeah, we were supposed to have Trevor on, and obviously he couldn't make it due to some technical difficulties, but we hope to have him on, and then we have a few other guys from the site who will be making appearances as well, so stay tuned for that. So thanks for listening to episode 1 of the EFIS, and we'll see you later.